as they get ready. We'll have more on that in a moment, but we want to get back to this Trump indictment. Big day down in Florida today. For more on that, we welcome in attorney and Republican strategist Erin Elmore, former deputy press secretary at the White House, Hogan Gidley, and joining us on set, former New York Congresswoman Nan Hayworth. Great to have y'all on. Good morning. Erin, we'll start with you. You're in Florida. You're an attorney. Take us through how you see this going for the former president today.
So he's going to be in front of a magistrate, which is different than the judge, Eileen Cannon. But this judge, Mr. Goodman, was also appointed by President Trump, has a great reputation in the community. They say he's even funny. 37 charges. And the reason why this was done, it's called stacking. It's an attempt basically to say, wow, there are so many charges against Donald J. Trump. Some of them must at least be damning. So it is really a psychological strategy. And if it gets as far as a jury, that's what they hope a jury will think. So it's going to be a bit of a circus down there in Miami. It's going to be very busy. I don't believe it will be long. Reading of the charges, he will likely plead not guilty, and we will go from there.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's a far cry from a slam dunk from everything I've seen. I'll let Erin speak to the legalities of what they're alleging here. But for John Bolton to say it's a rifle shot, when Erin pointed out articulately that there are 37 counts here, that's not the definition of a rifle. That's a shotgun blast. And Donald Trump has faced blast after blast after blast from an aggressive, overreaching Department of Justice.
I want to go to this trial because obviously the prosecution, Jack Smith, he wants a speedy trial. How far out can the Trump team push this? How many months, years, maybe?
It's really hard to say depending upon how the judge rules on different things that they might allege. But, we're not going to know that today. This is the very preliminary phase right now. And also, Florida is a good jurisdiction in terms of getting things through the legal system faster. But he's more likely to have a jury pool that could be favorable to the president. Now, if you're in New York or Washington, D.C., we definitely would not see that, and trial would take a lot longer. So it just depends on the kind of motions that the legal team of President Trump sort of asserts. But again, today is not going to be that day. Today is very preliminary. We're not likely going to see any sort of perp walk where they have him in handcuffs. There probably will not be any sort of mugshot. This is going to be, in many instances, you would call it anticlimactic, but it is a big issue for our country.
Yeah.
And regardless of what happens here, I do believe that President Trump will be a cult hero, and every American out there that has any sort of understanding of what's going on in this country is saying, wow, this is absolutely not how American justice should work, knowing that Biden has had documents back to the days of when he was a senator, and senators do not have the ability to declassify, period.
Erin, so many good points. You're right. Jury selection, if it gets to that point, if we don't see a plea before, jury selection is going to be huge. You don't think he will? Okay.
No.
And I thought it was interesting. Alan Dershowitz, who is not a Trump voter, but calls balls and strikes, appears on Wake Up America every now and again. He's on Newsmax pretty often. He said that Trump could self-pardon. So if Trump won the nomination and got himself elected, he could self-pardon in this case.
Very
so
quickly,
it's going to be.
In this case, he could, but in the state charges in New York and potentially in Georgia, he cannot. State charges, you cannot pardon. Federal charges, you can.
Yeah, and these are federal charges. Okay, Erin, we'll pick this up. But it's going to be interesting to see how this goes today, because even the New York Times, with an article out late yesterday, no one has any idea how this is actually going to look in Florida, whether we get a mugshot. I agree with you. I don't think we will, but I guess it's within the realm. We could. We certainly didn't in New York with Alvin Bragg.
And I don't mean to take all of the time, but if he did have a mugshot, think about how those mugshots would sell. People would buy those on our side, get them autographed.
You're right.
Again,
it would become the most famous political photograph of all time instantly the second you snap that picture. We'll pick this back up top of the hour. Erin, Nan, Hogan, thank you so much. Let's welcome Alex Kramer, and she's got a look at headlines. Hey, Alex. Former White House Communications Director Mercedes Schlapp, attorney, Republican strategist Erin Elmore, and former Deputy Press Secretary at the White House, Hogan Gidley. Great to have you all back on. Mercedes, we'll start with you. Sequential, I would say that this was the planned sequential movement to try and take out Donald Trump. Is that already underway? Is this part of that?
I mean, clearly it's death by a thousand cuts. But if you look at specifically the Miami case, I do think it's the best one we have so far. It's federal, so he could pardon himself. 37 charges, which is called stacking. It's sort of a psychological tactic used by the government to say, if there's a jury, well, wow, if there's 37 charges, he must be guilty of some of them. And it's just to add on and add on. So there's more of a problem, perceived or otherwise. Right now, he's just in front of a magistrate. His name is Mr. Goodman. He was a Trump appointee. It's not Eileen, I have her last name, Cannon, who will probably oversee the case later.
Yeah.
And today, this is not going to be a big trial or anything like that, just a reading of the charges. But you know what? The media, they want this because when they have Donald Trump's face on the screen, they get eyeballs. So they really need Donald Trump to stay afloat. And today it's going to be more of a media circus than anything substantial.
Yeah, hasn't done any for the ratings over at CNN. I just don't understand how this doesn't violate DOJ standards, by the way, the timing of this whole thing. No matter what, if it goes to trial, it's going to be primary season or it's going to be election season. We'll be in 2024, which is against DOJ practice. So where are Republicans in an oversight on that? Hogan, according to the Post, in announcing the charges against Trump last week, Biden's special counsel Jack Smith insisted that there's only one standard of justice applicable to all Americans, even those who've held the highest public office in our government.
This one here has two factors, one political, one legal. The legal stuff will play out. I'll let Erin, the astute attorney, speak to that. But the political ramifications are Donald Trump continues to go up in the polls.
Download the Newsmax app, do what millions of people have done.